Chapter 28. As the three young werewolves grew and became teenagers, Harper was growing with them. He had built them a town with schools, department stores, and a hospital. He brought in doctors and teachers from California to New York to give the children and his werewolf pups the best education they could get outside of Samseville. And Emily would be a teacher to them as well, teaching them how to live in a world of humans. Another lesson they would need in order to exist in a world of men. Michael handed each new resident to Samseville a contract. It was a non-disclosure and binding one, along with the agreement to never mention that the town was a haven to all werewolves and humans who wanted to live by the shifter laws Harper had imposed on the inhabitants of the city. As well as being responsible citizens, they were given a substantial salary with housing and work in Samseville for as long as they wanted. After Harper discovered Liam was no longer a threat to him, he and Liam became friends. After all, they were the same age. Liam? I have to take my sons out to teach them to become what they are. They are hunters, and they are men. They know how to be men. They don't know how to be werewolves. I want you and your wife to look after Emily while I'm gone. When school is out for the summer, we will head north to Canada and Alaska. I hear there are shifters there who may be interested in forming an alliance with me. We can see to Emily. I've never been as happy as I have been since I met Kim. Maybe we'll go into San Francisco. Kim has never seen the place. My sons are becoming yearlings and I need your assistance. But it can wait until you return. If they were old enough, I would send them with you. Maybe next time. Emily wants to check on her father, and she's excited about just seeing how much the city has changed in 2 years. Harper glanced at his watch. I have a meeting at the high school. Who is it this time? Do you have to ask? It's Lysel as usual. Liam saw the pain on Harper's face. I won't keep you. When Harper walked into the principal's office, Wilder and Drayton were sitting on the outside looking at Lysel through the glass walls. Lysel was sitting in a corner behind closed doors away from the others. What's this about? I don't know, Father. Drayton said, standing when his father entered. Wilder glanced up and didn't answer, however Wilder's eyes told it all to Harper. It had to do with a female. And the female was the principal's daughter. Harper walked into the office without knocking. You aren't supposed to question my sons and have them assemble and sit outside your office as if they all were suspects to be rounded up. Harper looked to Lysel sitting with a smirk on his face. Mr. Samsa, will you sit down? I have to explain to you why I have Lysel here and the other two outside. Harper stood. Lysel has been dating my daughter. Yes, she is a pretty girl. Has he been respectful of her? Why, yes. Has he shown you respect? Of course. Then what's the problem? He's been visiting her in the middle of the night. Harper turned to Lysel with a jerk of his body. I just wanted to watch her sleep. She's beautiful when she's sleeping. Can you see what I'm talking about, Mr. Samsa? That's just not appropriate. She woke up and he was sitting in her room. When I heard moaning and groaning, you can see why I burst into the room. And were they doing anything? We were just kissing, Father, Lysel interrupted. Do not interrupt Mr. Kaiser or me, Harper said with a closed smile and steel in his eyes. I don't think they were doing anything, but I can't have him jumping in my daughter's window at night. I want her to finish high school, and the way things are going, that may never happen. She could come up pregnant. I see your point, but I don't understand why you have my 2 other boys sitting out there. Because they wouldn't let Lysel come to my office without them. That is unusual, but then when they are in the same classes, it makes for a difficult time for me as well as any teacher who has to teach them. For example, in biology class, the teacher was explaining the anatomy of a young man their age, and he showed the reproductive organs of a man. Lysel argued that this wasn't in every case, the penis had to be of a certain size. When the teacher stated he had never seen one that would be larger than the standard size, Lysel offered to show his as an example to the class, and not everyone had a regular size penis. One size doesn't fit all is what I said, Lysel said as Harper swung a sour look at him. Harper sat down and glanced at Lysel. Lysel shrugged his shoulders because everything the principal said was true. I just wanted to show him that his claims weren't true, Lysel said. Couldn't you let him assume what he wanted? He was saying this as if it was a fact, and Mother always said that if you could prove a fact is not a fact, you have a right to prove it, and I was just trying to prove that not all penis were the same by showing him. And the class, the principal exclaimed. Wilder and Drayton were willing to demonstrate what the teacher had said wasn't a fact, Lysel said. Do you see why I have all three of them in my office? Somewhat. He stood and tapped Lysel on the shoulder, and Lysel stood as well. Go out and sit with your brothers. Lysel turned and walked out of the room and closed the door behind. It didn't matter if the door was closed, they could hear the conversation. I understand what you have to deal with, but these are my sons and this is my town. I gave jobs to everyone because of my sons, not in spite of them. I will handle the situation about your daughter. There will be no more visits to your daughter's room at night or any other time. Wilder, Lysel and Drayton saw their father shake hands, and then Harper turned, leaving the room and closing the door behind him. Harper stood in front of them with a gray look. Go to class, but I want to see all of you in my library after school. They glanced at each other and walked back to class. When class was over, they rode home in their respective trucks. They climbed out in a somber mood. We have a football game coming up. Now what, Lysel? Are you trying to get us benched? Wilder said, looking at Lysel, who stood already 6 feet. Just an inch shy of Wilder, with Drayton the tallest of the three. I didn't show the class my cock. Although the girls were dying to get a peek at it. Yeah, because that's all you talk about in class, Drayton said, leaning on the door of his truck and delaying the inevitable, learning what his father had in store for them. I'm bored. We're all bored. Mother taught us about our bodies, and all that other human shit we need to know about. When we tested, and we are well above our age and grade level. I could get my PhD if I wanted. PhD in stupidity and arrogance, Wilder said. You can't sneak out of the house during the full moon, and we aren't going to cover for you anymore. Father knows about it, and he is going to blame us, all of us, if you do it again. You're just accusing me because you don't have the balls to roam around and see what the world is like outside of Samseville. I'll have you know I don't just visit the principal's daughter, she just happens to be the one I haven't fucked yet, Lysel said. Wilder let out a hard breath through his teeth. You're impossible. And he strutted to the house, with Drayton following behind him. Lysel tucked his hands into his jeans and reluctantly entered through the kitchen. I'm hungry, he said to the cook. You have to see your father first. He said not to put out your food until he's done talking to all of you. Lysel touched a piece of salmon and the cook slapped his hand. He glanced at her with a grieved look, with the sides of his mouth turned downward. She knew his look as well as the rest, and she didn't soften to it. Lysel had been a handful since he was a pup with his mischievous behavior. It was time someone stopped him before he became a yearling and out of control, where no one would be able to rein in his outrageous antics, she thought. Chapter 29. Stepping into the library, Lysel glanced at his father, Wilder, and Drayton sitting across from him. Sit, Lysel, Harper said. He waited to give Lysel time to enter the room. Harper wore a stern look on his face. He wasn't smiling with them, as he usually does. He sat with his leg crossed and his fist under his chin. Wilder and Drayton looked to Lysel. They never could tell what he would do. He always defied authority, but he wouldn't this time. He sat in a chair close to his father, but away from Wilder and Lysel. You and your brothers are becoming yearlings, and you have a choice. You can remain here with, or you can go on your own and organize your own pack. You don't have to decide now. He watched at them for a reaction. If we have our own pack, will we have our choice of females? Lysel asked. That's all you think about. Fucking and how many females you can score with, Drayton said. That's because you have yet to get any of them to fuck you, Lysel said. Enough of this, Wilder said. Let's hear what father has to say. Wilder looked at Lysel and Drayton. He was the oldest and the voice of reason, but it wasn't enough to talk sense into Lysel. It took a firmer voice than a brother. It took an alpha. I want you all to know that you will share everything equally. Everything that belongs to your mother and me. Our home and the hundreds of acres of land. And your status as alphas. Neither one of you can make the other a beta. It is up to you to decide how you want to handle this. And there is the matter of the cave. What cave? Lysel said, his ears peeking upward. I had a cave built under a waterfall. It is hidden away from everything. If you're ever in trouble or you need a place to get away, it's there for you. All you have to do is keep it supplied with fresh food. Smoke the meat if you need to for the winter months, but keep it stocked with supplies. You never know when you and your family may need it. But never bring men to your cave. But where is it, Father? Wilder asked. You will see it soon. We have to stop there on our way to Alaska. Alaska. What do I want with Alaska? I have everything I need here, Lysel interrupted. We know what you need, Drayton said with a low growl. You will need each other, so don't fight, Harper said. I want you to promise me that you and none of your pack will fight. I will write it in a decree that all the werewolves and shifters have to sign, and all the humans who come into this town. Wilder, Lysel, and Drayton watched around the room. They played with each other as pups, but never had they thought about fighting with each other. This agreement is for your mother's peace of mind, and because you have responsibilities to the other werewolves and shifters. There aren't many left, and if you continue arguing it will lead to fights, and under no circumstance do you fight over a female. Share her, but never fight your brother over her. You don't have to worry about that, Father. We don't have the same taste in females, Drayton said with a snicker, looking at Lysel. Wilder is so secretive, he never says anything. We don't know if he has a girl or not. Just because I don't go around holding my cock and making wolf calls to get attention, doesn't mean that I don't have a girl. But I have my sports and studies. That takes up most of my time. When the time is right, I'll find a mate. And you two won't know anything about it. I'll probably get me a wer female or one of the wer cats, Wilder said. I don't want a wer female. I like the humans, Drayton said. What human female will want you? Lysel said. You are so boring. If a female human or werewolf came to you and said she wanted to fuck, you would ask her why. Lysel said with a loud laugh. I wanted you to know what is going on in the world around you. And because of that, I'm taking you all to the north. Our last destination is Alaska. There is trouble there. The wer females are unable to produce, and because of that they are being abused and displaced, Harper said to Wilder, who may have been the only one listening as Drayton and Lysel quarreled. Let me get hold of one of those wer females. They will be producing like rabbits, Lysel said, shifting in his chair. This is serious, Lysel. We leave on your last day of school, Harper said. Wilder sat silent, and Drayton sat with a smile on his face. Lysel, however, sat with a furrowed brow. I had plans. After the prom I had plans, Lysel said. Plans on fucking as many of the females as possible. And Father, Lysel has an apartment in town, Drayton said. Lysel looked at him with a narrowed glance, and his mouth turned down at the edges. When Drayton glanced at him, he growled. Why are you waiting until now to tell me, Drayton? Because Wilder wouldn't. Harper looked to Wilder. It wasn't that important, Father. Harper put his hand to his mouth. It would have done no good to say anything to Lysel. But what he would do would hurt him more and teach him discipline.